The Sea Otter Classic is one of the biggest cycling trade shows in the world, and unsurprisingly, that means many brands use it as an opportunity to release new models or tease upcoming prototypes. This year, we were lucky enough to see dozens of such models, and in this video, we've got 5 of our favorite road, gravel, and mountain bikes that were all first seen at the show and should be available to buy sometime between now and later this summer. But before we talk about what those bikes are, take a quick second to hit that like button and subscribe to 99 Spokes, where we release new videos like this one every Friday. Now on to our first bike, which is the Parlee Ouray. The first thing to catch our eyes on this all-road bike is the beautiful waxed carbon finish that shows off the frame's unique one-piece monocoque construction. Unlike most carbon bikes that are molded in separate sections and then bonded together after that, the Ouray comes out of the mold in one piece that's essentially ready to ride, with no additional filler or overwrap needed. And not only does this look great, but it should provide for a pretty out-of-this-world ride quality too. Parlee claims that the Ouray is 20% more comfortable than its outgoing all-road model. And a big reason for this is there's no additional material needed at the end of those chainstays and seat stays where they meet the seat tube. And this allows for a little more compliance without compromising on stiffness in the places that really matter, like the bottom bracket. In terms of geometry, the Ouray is designed to be a modern, comfort-focused endurance bike that, in Parlee's own words, isn't afraid to get dirty. The bike's 38mm tire clearance isn't at all groundbreaking, but should allow for a good blend of speed and comfort. The size large has a 382mm reach, 606mm stack height, 420mm chainstays, and a 72-degree head tube angle, giving the bike a wheelbase of 1,013mm. Just about everything on this frame, all the way down to the top tube slope, changes between the 5 available frame sizes. But there's more here than just carbon fiber wizardry, and Parlee has put a lot of thought into the components on this bike and making it something that's going to be easy to live with. For one, it's got a T47 bottom bracket, universal derailleur hanger compatibility, and a slew of headset adapters for adjusting stack height and cockpit setup. Lastly, if you order a complete bike from Parlee, you'll get to specify your desired bar width, crank length, stem length, and even seat post setback. But this extreme level of attention to detail is going to cost you. There hasn't been a price announced yet for the 12 available complete bikes, but the frame set is going to cost somewhere between $500 and $5,500. But if you've got that kind of money and you're looking for the perfect blend of speed, comfort, and bespoke beauty, then this Parlee Ouray could be the bike for you. For that reason, we are going to give it 4.5 out of 5 goats. We love the attention to detail that's been put into that frame, and the fact that it comes with so many customizable options if you go with the complete is pretty dang cool. Our only wish is that it came at just a bit more attainable of a price point. But if the thought of a $5,000 frame leaves you scratching your head, then you'll be happy to hear that our next bike comes from the value-priced juggernaut Polygon. The Polygon TLE is the brand's first foray into the world of lightweight e-mtbs, and is powered by the all-new Bosch SX motor. This drive system pairs a class-leading 600-watt motor with a 400 watt-hour battery, and will also include Bosch's PowerMore 250 watt-hour range extender. Another noticeable difference between the TLE and Polygon's existing lineup of full suspension mountain bikes is its carbon fiber frame construction. You'll also find a revamped version of Polygon's IFS suspension that's currently only available on their Enduro bike. This new design promises to retain the same high level of control over suspension kinematics, but in a lighter and stiffer package. Speaking of suspension, the TLE has 140mm in the back, paired with a 150mm fork. But for those of you who want to get extra sendy, it is compatible with a 160mm fork, and you could throw a coil on the back as well. Geometry details are still a bit sparse on the TLE, but Polygon was able to tell us that this new bike has slightly longer chainstays and a lower bottom bracket than their current full-powered e-mtb. With this, we'd imagine that the head tube will be slackened as well. In addition, Polygon claims that the top-tier TLE-R model tips the scales at right around 41 pounds or 18.9 kilograms. This will pit the bike directly against some of the hottest SL e-mtbs on the market, like the Trek Fuel EXE and Specialized Turbo Levo SL, and it will be exciting to see how the Polygon fares against what will likely be more expensive competition. Speaking of prices, Polygon is still a bit tight-lipped here, but they were able to tell us that this bike is going to be available in 2 different build kits, both of which will come with that carbon fiber frame. First up is the higher-end TLE-R that was on display at the event. This model comes with Fox Performance Elite suspension, Magura MT7 brakes, and a SRAM XX T-Type drivetrain. There will also be a bit more wallet-friendly TLE P that comes with a Marzocchi Bomber and Z1 suspension package, the same Magura brakes, and a GX T-Type drivetrain. In total, we're going to give the Polygon TLE 5 out of 5 goats, but with an asterisk, and that's that the bike is priced as low as we think it probably will be, given the fact that Polygon has such a good reputation for releasing budget-priced bikes. And if that's the case, that's pretty dang cool, because really, you can't get a lightweight e-mtb for much under $8,000 or $9,000 right now. And I'd imagine that this bike is going to change that. Our next two bikes on the list actually come from the same manufacturer, and it's not a company that you usually associate with releasing high-performance road, gravel, and mountain bikes, and that's Haro. Haro is making big steps into more traditional cycling disciplines this year with the launch of 4 new bikes: a trail bike, enduro bike, road race bike, and the Haro Buzzard, a fast, race-focused gravel bike. The Buzzard is built around a full carbon frame with short 450mm chainstays that should keep the bike nice and quick on its feet. Despite those short chainstays though, Haro has still managed to fit 45mm tires in the frame. Interestingly, Haro has forgone the slope top tube and drop seat stay look that most modern gravel bikes have, and instead gets a double diamond frame for a more traditional look. Now, it's hard to say without riding it, but we think this may slightly diminish comfort and maneuverability, but folks looking for a clean and classic aesthetic will certainly dig the design. Other geometry details on this bike are sparse, but Haro assures us that this bike is going to be more focused towards the gravel race and touring scene than the more adventure gravel side of things. And speaking of touring, the bike is riddled with mounting points on both the frame and fork. It's front derailleur and dropper post compatible, and best yet, also features a down tube storage compartment. The Buzzard will be available in 2 different models, the aptly named Buzzard Top Shelf and the slightly more affordable Buzzard 1. That top shelf model lists for $6,800 and will come with a SRAM Forest Explorer Access group set, RockShox Reverb Access dropper posts, FSA carbon wheels, and an Easton carbon gravel handlebar. If you ask us though, we think that the Buzzard 1 might be a slightly better value. It costs $4,750, and for that, you're still going to get the same carbon wheels and carbon cockpit, but you'll swap out the dropper post for a rigid alloy post and the 1x4 drivetrain for a 2x SRAM Rival Access group set. Both bikes are expected to be available for order in May. As a lifelong BMX fan, it's really cool to see Haro branching out into other disciplines of cycling, especially when a lot of companies these days are pulling back or even shutting their doors completely. And for that reason, we are going to give the Buzzard 4 out of 5 goats. But to be honest, the lackluster frame design and, average pricing doesn't do much to set it apart from other gravel bikes on the market. And that may make it a hard sell for anyone other than diehard BMX fans like myself. But, like I said earlier, that is not the only Haro that we are talking about in this video. Our next bike is the Haro Greer, which is one of 2 new prototype mountain bikes that Haro had on display at Sea Otter. The Greer features 160mm of travel in the back and a 170mm fork, putting it squarely in the enduro bike category. In a wise move by Haro, they've signed Pink Bike Academy crowd favorite Evan Wall, who will not only be racing the Greer in elite enduro races this year, but will also help test and tweak both new mountain bikes. In addition to being a solid option for enduro racing, its mixed wheel setup, relatively short wheelbase, and burly aluminum construction should make it a pretty cool option for riders looking to get kind of a mini freeride bike as well. In terms of sizing, the large has a 485mm reach, 435mm chainstays, and a 63.8-degree head-tube angle. The bike also gets some super clean internal cable routing, it's UDH compatible, and features a beefy one-piece rocker link that Haro promises makes this bike exceptionally stiff. The Greer is expected to be released later this summer, and at the time of launch, it's going to come with 2 build options, both based around that alloy frame. But Haro has plans to produce the bike with carbon frames as well, a little bit further down the road. In terms of model availability, there is both the Greer 2, which lists for $3,300, give or take, and the Greer 1, which was the bike that was on display, which should be around $4,000. That higher-end build will feature Marzocchi suspension, a Shimano XT drivetrain, race face cockpit, and WTB wheels. In total, we're going to give the Greer 4.5 out of 5 goats. Not only does the bike look sick, but it has a pretty decent set of components for that $4,000 price tag as well. We're going to be super excited to see what Evan does on this bike during this year's Enduro season, and we here at 99 Spokes hope to get the bike in for a review later on this summer. Believe it or not though, Haro was not the only BMX brand hoping to make inroads into the mountain bike scene at this year's Sea Otter Classic. Our fifth and final bike on our list is the Fairdale Elevator. In case you're not familiar with Fairdale, they're a sister company of Odyssey BMX and Sunday Bikes, both of which have been highly regarded in the BMX industry for decades. Fairdale started out a little over 10 years ago by making BMX-inspired urban and commuter bikes like the Weekender, and are now entering the mountain scene with the Elevator, a BMX-inspired steel hardtail. Now, what do I mean when I say BMX-inspired? Well, the biggest thing, or maybe I should say the shortest thing here, is the chainstay length, which is at a ridiculously short 406 millimeters. And that still fits a 29 by 2.5 inch tire. The Elevator also has a relatively high bottom bracket with just 50 millimeters of bottom bracket drop. And that, combined with those short chainstays, should make the thing very poppy, maneuverable, and agile. Essentially what you'd expect to find on a BMX bike, but taken over into the mountain bike world. Now, that said, I did spend a good bit of time talking to a Fairdale employee who's actually racing the Elevator here at Sea Otter Classic, and managed to finish just outside of the top 5 in both men's expert dual slalom, as well as the hardtail category in the downhill race. So this bike can definitely still go plenty fast in the right hands. The rest of the geometry though is just about what you'd expect from a trail hardtail. It has a 130 millimeter fork, 65.5 degree head tube angle, and a 682 millimeter reach on a size large frame. Other highlights on the 4130 steel frame include ISCG tabs, UDH compatibility, and enough mounting points to move your buddy out of his studio apartment. The Elevator is expected to be available in just a little bit here in May, and is going to come in both a frame-only option as well as one complete bike. That complete bike does have a full GX drivetrain, including a GX cassette with the XD driver and a RockShox Pike Select fork. Official pricing isn't available yet, but we were able to pry out of them that the frame is expected to list for less than $1,000 and the complete bike for less than $3,000. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit biased on this one. I love hardtails, especially ultra playful dirt jumper-esque ones, and this Fairdale Elevator sounds to be exactly that. And for that reason, I am gonna give it a full 5 out of 5 goats. But don't get me wrong, this bike isn't going to be for everybody. If you're looking for a more trail-focused bike, then check out the Roscoe, the Stoic, the Laufey. There's lots of great hardtails like that out there. If you want something that's gonna feel like your BMX bike that you can take on a trail ride, then I think this Fairdale Elevator is the bike for you. As it always is, the 2024 Sea Otter Classic was a ton of fun. And despite what some news headlines may be wanting you to believe, I think the future is plenty bright for cycling. The only bad news is we now have to wait another 349 days until the next Sea Otter Classic, but don't worry, I've already got my timer set right now. Until then, don't forget that bikes are for everyone. Have fun out there.